Hey guys, if you're here, that means you're in the right spot. So great job. We're going to talk today about points, lines, and planes, and really just the fundamental building blocks of geometry. So this is stuff that we're going to be using for the rest of the year. And so in this, if we're looking at the fundamentals, we're really looking at three main things: points, lines, and planes. And so in traditional sense, if we were talking about points, we might use the x and y coordinates. In this case, we don't want to make everything dependent on those 2 points. So instead, we're going to label our points as some letter. Typically, you use a capital letter. In this case, we're going to call this point P, but it could be A, B, Z, whatever you want to do. For lines, if you have multiple points and they're all stacked up in the same place, we call that a line. And so you can label a line if you have a name given to it. Typically it's a cursive lowercase letter, but this could be line L. However, if you know 2 points, so think about when you were graphing y equals mx plus b, you would find 2 points and then graph a line from there. If you know 2 points, you can also call this the line AB. Notice what I have written on the top here. If you wanted to know just the difference, if you wanted to reference the segment from here to here, so the points, all the points in between 2 points, you're going to be talking about this right here. That's called a line segment. And you reference a line segment by A, B, like that. All right, so what's the difference between this AB and this AB? Yeah, exactly. The difference is on the top. See how there's just a straight line here and this one has arrowheads on both sides? Well, this is really important because if you want to talk about the points from A, B, and everything past B, that's what we call a ray. And so a ray then has one endpoint. So this is kind of the cool thing right here. This A and this A and this B are all called endpoints. They're called endpoints because you don't want to look past that. It's stopped there. It's the point that it ends on. All right? So these are all called endpoints. If you have one endpoint, it's a ray. If you have 2 endpoints, it's a line segment. If you have 0 endpoints, it's a line. Okay, so if we want to talk about all of these things added together, what am I talking about here? I'm talking about a plane. So in this case, if you have a bunch of points and they're all smashed together, or you have a bunch of lines, we can call that a plane. So just for example, if I had this rag here, and each one of these loops was representing a point, well, when the points are all put together, they go off forever and ever. That's a line. And so you have lines going this direction. You also have lines going this direction, any direction in here. All of this then makes up a plane. So we call this a plane. We reference this by using a parallelogram that looks like this. But really, this goes out in all directions in that one surface. So we call a plane. If we're going to label a plane, you need either 2 things. You either need the plane labeled, and typically, so this would be called plane M. So typically you use a fancy cursive uppercase letter. Or if you have 3 non-collinear points. So if this was A, B, and C, you could also call this plane ABC or CBA. Order does not matter. Same for up here. You can switch B and A. Order doesn't matter. Up here, you can switch B and A. If you switch B and A here, though, you have to switch the direction of your arrow, because this is an endpoint and that continues. It goes past B but stops at A. So that's the important thing to remember when you're making these classifications. Something else to kind of note, a point then is going to be 0th dimensions. It has no length and no width. A line, however, has 1 dimension because it goes out in one direction. 1 dimension. A plane is then going to be 2 dimensions because you have a length and a width. And the final thing is what we call space. That's if you have every single direction. It's going out in every direction, then that is called 3 dimensions. We live in a 3-dimensional world, which is why making these drawings is extremely important to be detailed, so that you know exactly where all your points are and where their orientation is, especially when you're trying to draw these on 2-dimensional surfaces. Okay. Now, earlier I mentioned the word collinear. And the nice thing about this word is it pretty much tells you what it is in the word. So co means together, linear. So think if you're graphing linear functions, they're all in one line. So if you have points that are collinear, the set of points are all in one line. If you have points that are non-collinear, you can't draw a single line between all of the points. Sure, you can draw a line between A and B, you can draw a line between B and C, even A and C, but you can't draw a single point or a single line that goes through you can't draw one line that goes through all the points. Alright. Also, it's kind of important to think, this is kind of small, I apologize for that, but if you have a plane and you have a bunch of points that are all in the same plane, we have a word for that, and that's called coplanar. And think, planar sounds very similar to plane. So coplanar points are a set of points that are all on the same surface, they're all in the same plane. So for instance, in this right here, in this image, our coplanar points are A, D, C, and B are all coplanar. E is not, because it is outside of the plane. I know this because this line here, see how it gets dashed right here? That means that it's going underneath. So that means that you have a surface and you have a point that's going through your surface. Like that. Alright. The last thing we're going to talk about is the intersection. If you have 2 or more geometric figures, points, lines, planes, any of that stuff, if you have them overlap each other, the intersection is the set of points they have in common. The intersection of 2 or more geometric figures is the set of points they have in common. So, for down here, this is line H and line K. They intersect at point P. Line H and K intersect at point P. You can also have this if you have 2, oh, and I don't know what happened with my, oh, I put them somewhere. Okay, whatever, we'll do with that. So if you have 2 planes, so I'm just going to use my hands. We'll go over here. All right, if you have 2 planes, this plane in this plane, and they intersect, where they intersect is going to be a line. So where those two intersect, of course it goes off forever and ever in either direction, they intersect in some line. Alright, we're going to talk more about this in class today, but I want you to kind of be familiar with some of these vocabulary terms, and we're going to do some examples, and I will see you then.